movies to be a part of my childhood. I associate the first Cars movie with my childhood because I remember watching that movie nonstop as a kid. I loved the Cars movie because not only was it about racing, it was also about Lightning McQueen being a selfish and bratty character in the film, whose initial goal was to abandon Rusty's and race for Dinoco instead. But his behavior changed for the better when he ended up getting stuck in Radiator Springs, and he slowly changes his selfish ways thanks to the residents living there. By the end of the film, he forfeits his win to help strip the King Weathers across the finish line and decides to stay with Rusty's instead of Dinoco. He also makes a decision to stay in Radiator Springs for good. That's how good Cars is. Cars 2, however, well, it's a movie, alright. Now for Cars 2, I watched it countless of times, and of course, I loved the movie and didn't see anything wrong with it whatsoever. I didn't come to think it was so terribly bad because it was made by Pixar, and every movie they make is pure perfection. I always thought people who hated were just haters, and I would always say to myself, psh, those guys don't know what they're talking about, that movie is really good. But as the days went by, as I continuously watched it, I slowly started to understand where those people were coming from. Certain points in the movie just became annoying and obnoxious. Characters just felt less important and redundant. The majority of the movie is just full of nonsense, a lot of humor, and it was just painful and frustrating to watch. There are some good things that I like about the movie, like the racing, the World Grand Prix, and the racers involved. I even have some favorite characters in the movie. However, despite the few good qualities the movie has, that doesn't excuse how bad it is due to the direction it took and some of its major flaws that led to Pixar's downfall. So buckle up, guys. I'm gonna talk a lot about this. I'm gonna get into the nitty-gritty of this. I'm gonna really dive deep into it and give you all the details on why Cars 2 is a bad movie. When you first enter this film, you see Leland Turbo introduce himself as an agent, and he sends Finn McMissile the coordinates to get to his location. The scene transitions to Finn riding on a boat to the location, and from that point on, it all turns an ugly head, and Finn barely escapes with his life. You can instantly tell that the first flaw of this movie is that it took an entirely different direction than the first movie did. It was a horrible transition from racing, personal character development, and learning what really matters in the end to a spy thriller with racing thrown in the mix. It makes me wonder why they went in this direction. Why did they decide to shift to a spy thriller car movie all of a sudden? What goal did they expect to achieve from this sudden shift in direction? The second flaw in this movie, and probably the biggest one of all, is making Mater the major and most important character of Cars 2. In the first Cars film, you see Mater being introduced as a goofy little fella, and is only there to provide spurts of humor throughout the film. He only appears on screen either with the Radiator Springs residents or with Lightning, but only to provide the humor, because that's what he is, the comic relief character. That's all there is to it. Now there's a big reason why he failed to be the main character in Cars 2. His character itself was very poorly thought out. Throughout Cars 2, you see Mater being his usual self, but there's some points in the movie where you as the viewer wish he wasn't being his usual self all the time. His character was consistently kept as such, to the point where it gets extremely annoying to the viewers, and it makes them want to bang their heads against the wall. I know for a fact I wanted to. Mater doesn't get any character development either. He's told to be himself back in London because Lightning gave him permission to. The lesson itself is too predictable, and it defeats the whole purpose of using him as the main character in the movie. Telling Mater to just be himself is basically allowing him to just be completely ignorant and to not let him to try to adapt to his surroundings. He's given the permission to act like some grown child who doesn't fit in anywhere, and it makes it seem like his behavior throughout the entire film is completely okay and acceptable, even though it's not. There are ways Mater could have been more than just a comic relief character, by giving him serious moments from time to time, giving him a personal journey with some struggles involved, and yeah, he could be a bit silly here and there. It's such a shame that Mater wasn't as great of a character that we hoped he would have been in the Cars 2 film. I think he could have been a better character if the directors and producers of the movie took the time to sit down and really think about his character. Maybe the movie would have gone a bit better if they did. The third flaw of this movie is making Lightning McQueen the side character of his own sequel. Since he's the biggest character on the poster, it would make more sense to put more focus on him and to give him more of the spotlight in the movie. No one is going to want to watch this spy espionage plot for the majority of it. Lightning should have been more present in the sequel anyways. There are only a few minute scenes of him throughout the film because the directors wanted to give Mater a chance at the spotlight. If he were more present, Lightning would have been given another great opportunity to go through a journey of self-improvement and character growth, and there would have been some new struggles he would have had to overcome as well. The fourth flaw of this movie is Cars 2 being just a cash grab. Unfortunately, Cars 2 was just a result of corporate greed, and when the second film was being produced, John Lasseter decided to use this as an opportunity to make more money out of it, by making merchandise ranging from a wide variety of characters from the film. It was like Cars 2 was just created for the sole purpose of profit, instead of being created for the purpose of appealing to younger and older audiences. What is happening? Okay, I think I've made it pretty clear that Cars 2 isn't the best sequel. Not only were the plots in the movie hard to follow and it gave us an overdose of humor, it failed to do what Pixar movies have succeeded at doing throughout the years. Pixar movies have the ability to invoke emotions out of us and make us feel the same way the characters in their movies are feeling. They succeed at giving their characters personal journeys that ensure character growth and development, and a sense of closure throughout their films. Not only do these characters emotionally mature, but the films let us relate to them and their emotional and personal struggles. Pixar films input these real-life struggles that people experience throughout their lives. We successfully connect with the characters from the Pixar films because we relate to them on a deep emotional level. Cars 2 has failed to do this, and spectacularly too. There is all this great action, yet there is a lack of empathy. We fail to connect with the characters. There are no emotional or personal journeys that help the characters learn important lessons that change them for the better. What makes Cars 2 stand out from not just its franchise, but all of Pixar movies, is that it has all this flash and spectacle that wows the viewers, but it gives little to no thought about the emotional impact on the characters and how they change throughout the film. It doesn't tug at anyone's heartstrings, and there's no moments that make you feel all warm inside. That's why the movie was criticized for being soulless. While there is a lot of great action in Cars 2, it's not the movie we were hoping for. There's also a lot of weird stuff in here that confuses me, and it makes me wish that it wasn't there in the first place. Every weird and nonsensical thing that occurs in the movie and applies to the Cars universe throws everyone off. There's no thought put into it. It's just there, for no reason. Like how food exists now. Actual food. If a car were to eat food, then how would they digest it? They don't have a digestive system. Or internal organs for that matter. Finn uses a respirator when he's underwater. But cars don't have lungs. They don't need to use stuff like that if they can't breathe. There are sinks in the car's bathrooms. How do cars use sinks? Why do they use sinks? The sinks aren't even low enough for them to reach. You get a few glimpses of a car pope in the Portacosa scenes. So I guess that means religion exists now. Does that mean there's also a car Jesus? It's a shame that this movie isn't as great as it could have been. There's a lot of potential that I see in this film, but it's all been thrown aside to produce this disaster of a Pixar movie. Not only is this considered the worst movie of Pixar, but it cost fans of the franchise to just lose their faith in it instantly due to Cars 2. Mainly because it was just a huge disappointment to them and they felt like they were let down. I know I was. Well, it's a good thing that Cars 3 was released in 2017. Because while there's a few things that appear in the film, like Jeff Gorvette and Lightning's new headlights, it makes up for what Cars 2 lacked when it aired in 2011. And I guarantee you, if you watch Cars 3 just once, then you can see that it succeeds as the perfect sequel to the first Cars film. You can just go from Cars to Cars 3 without having to watch the second movie. Had the Cars 2 film been better executed, then yeah, it would have been a great success. Maybe a better success. Then maybe Cars 2 wouldn't receive all this hate coming from fans and critics. But if I'm being honest, then this movie deserves to be in the garbage. Hell, it deserves to be forgotten by not just the franchise and the Pixar company, but by everyone in general. Cars 2 is nothing but a complete and utter disaster. Now you know why it is. Thanks for watching.